The New York Knicks have been unable to find the star to trade for this offseason. After being linked to a number of superstars heading into the offseason, the Knicks have failed to execute any trade for a superstar. But according to an NBA executive, he believes that the New York Knicks should trade Immanuel Quickley for a defensive monster who's in the Eastern Conference. We're going to speak about who this player is, why the Knicks should go after him, and if the Knicks could actually acquire this player for Immanuel Quickley. We're going to break down all of this and so much more today. Let's get started. An NBA executive believes the New York Knicks should trade Immanuel Quickley, and this executive believes the Knicks should trade Immanuel Quickley to the Raptors for OG Anunoby. According to TheHeavy.com's Sean Deverney, when he spoke to an NBA executive, the executive had the following to say. "Why, yes," said one front office executive, "the Raptors would be a really good fit for Immanuel Quickley. And the Knicks would be a really good fit for OG Anunoby. He's just a monster defender." Things have been pretty quiet in Toronto, but there is still a feeling that they are going to make another move here after what happened with Fred. Maybe they will stick with what they have, but that roster is still missing a lot. It's interesting to note this as well because OG isn't the only one that's on the block for the Raptors. They already got rid of Fred VanVleet, and apparently Pascal Siakam's name has been thrown out there a lot for potential trades that the Raptors can make to move that star for some pieces that they could use to build with. But if they move Siakam, could that signal a rebuild for the Raptors? Could that mean that they would trade OG Anunoby as well too? OG has actually spoken out on wanting a bigger role and having the ball in his hands a lot more than he did last season. And if that's the case, maybe the Raptors moving on from Pascal Siakam can give this opportunity to OG, and then they'll be able to see what he can do when he has more touches on hand and if he's able to convert on those attempts. And if he is, I think that would mean a lot going forward for him, his career, and where he is in terms of his standing with the Toronto Raptors. But, like the article stated, OG Anunoby is a perfect fit for the New York Knicks. He's basically a perfect fit for any team because of the two-way play that he creates and gives us. And Immanuel Quickley, for everything he does well for the New York Knicks, almost was Sixth Man of the Year last season. And he's definitely one of the players the New York Knicks can count on, especially during the regular season, to create his own shot and get his own shot. And he mainly runs the second unit for the New York Knicks. However, he's owed money very, very soon. And his contract extension could be as high as $80+ million. You already have Jalen Brunson. You already have Donte DiVincenzo now. You have Miles McBride. You have Quentin Grimes. And obviously you have Immanuel Quickley. You have so many guards at that position. And you have so many players on the team that need the ball in their hands to be impactful. The Knicks are absolutely going to have to make a decision on Immanuel Quickley. Signing him to a contract that is very, very lucrative, but not too expensive and is movable makes a lot of sense. And if you continue to increase his value, then maybe either before the season starts or even before the trade deadline of this upcoming season, you might be able to move him for a piece that you consider significant enough that you can utilize to build this roster out the right way and help us compete on a playoff level each and every year. But it's going to be hard to move Immanuel Quickley, according to TheHeavy.com, because there's still a lot of questions on what the Knicks want to pay Immanuel Quickley. And honestly, that's the biggest issue right there. Because if you don't know Immanuel Quickley's value, if you don't know what you're going to pay him, if you don't know what the right number is, you could run the risk of either overpaying him or giving him an offer that he's going to reject and feel disrespected by and maybe not want to sign with you anyways. So the New York Knicks are absolutely towing a very thin line here with regards to this contract negotiation with Immanuel Quickley. But in my opinion, trading him, if possible, for OG, I would absolutely do that. It makes sense for the Raptors. They lost Fred VanVleet. They need somebody to run point. Gary Trent's not going to do that. Go ahead. Give the reins to Immanuel Quickley and see what he can do. That's what I would do for the Raptors. And OG to the Knicks already made sense when he signed with CAA, but now it makes even more sense, not only because of his play and his fit, but it's likely when he's added to the Knicks via trade, if this happens, an under-the-table deal will likely be had, kind of similar to probably what happened with Josh Hart when he was traded to the Knicks regarding, we're going to take care of you next season, we're going to pay you, we're going to keep you part of this team and part of the future. I'm assuming a conversation like that is definitely going to happen. And if it does, I don't think anybody could hold a candle or criticize Leon Rose for making the move. Because at the end of the day, you have so many guards already. What are you going to do? You can't pay everybody. And if Immanuel Quickley is going to be paid 80, 90 million, whatever the number is, to come off your bench, that's a red flag for me. I would much rather sign him and trade him to the Raptors, get OG, whatever else we can get from them in that deal and package to be able to allow the Knicks to get better as a team. And I think since you've added Donte DiVincenzo, you already kind of took away minutes from Immanuel Quickley. Because essentially, Donte DiVincenzo will likely play Immanuel Quickley's role off the bench. If you already have that filled, move Quickley, keep a cheaper Donte DiVincenzo, and get yourself that two-way wing you absolutely need in OG Anunoby. And that move, by the way, not only helps move RJ Barrett back to the 2, his more natural position, but it gives you a 3 who's a natural 3, has the size of a 3, but can play two-way basketball at an elite level. You have to give him respect, you have to show him props, and you have to understand why players like Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby are perfect fits for any team they join, because they do things that each and every team in the NBA absolutely needs. And that is score effortlessly and defend immaculately. And they both do that so well. The Knicks taking offers and listening to offers for Immanuel Quickley isn't something new. In fact, last year, they took offers and listened to offers for Immanuel Quickley back in November, but it didn't really work out because Immanuel Quickley's value shot up so significantly that a first-round pick wasn't going to do it anymore. And according to this report here from theheavy.com, even by the trade deadline, Quickley was off the table in talks with other teams. And that's important to note because he was available at some point, but because of his play, he shot himself out of that conversation and shot himself into potentially being a piece for the New York Knicks. But after that playoff performance, and given the contract that he wants, and given the number of players that the Knicks already have at the guard position, and all the money they're going to tie up with potential contract extensions soon, it's going to be very hard for the New York Knicks to justify paying Immanuel Quickley all this money, not starting him, and trying to increase his value anyways to hopefully, potentially one day, trade him for a star. In my opinion, if you pay quick, you have to start quick. And that also is the best way to increase his value because other teams around the league will see him as a starter and they'll be okay with giving up starter value for another starter. But if you keep him on the bench, it'll always feel like he's a bench player that is outplaying what he's supposed to be doing. And even though that's good, it doesn't mean it locks you in to get that superstar. And I think that's important to note here. So the New York Knicks, if they pay Quickley, are going to have to increase his value some way. And keeping him on the bench makes no sense to me. Put him in the backcourt with Jalen Brunson. Increase his value. He's still a very good defender. I count on him to make threes more than I count on Quentin Grimes to do so. And if you put Quentin Grimes on the bench, his game is going to thrive just like IQ's game was allowed to thrive off the bench. There's just so many benefits to doing this. For the Knicks, for Immanuel Quickley, for Quentin Grimes, every single player in this equation makes sense. If you start one, put one on the bench, and if you're trying to increase value, there is no better way to do so than showcasing it. And what better way to showcase talent than paying them a contract that they deserve and then starting them after a season where they were close to being Sixth Man of the Year. It's like a perfect story, and it would make a lot of sense for IQ to walk down this path with us. Now, will he? That all depends on the final number for that contract and what the New York Knicks feel they can flip that contract and quickly forward down the road if they feel like they can get a star for him. It's going to be very interesting to note what goes on here. And I think a lot of people forget what Immanuel Quickley did after the All-Star break from this past season. If you pull up the numbers, 25 games after the All-Star break, Quickley averaged 21 points on 46.6% shooting and 40.1% three-point shooting. He also added 4.5 rebounds and 4.2 assists. Those are legitimate starter-type numbers that he's giving you off the bench. Could you imagine what those numbers would be like if he started? Stop. I know what you're saying. Troy, his game's not going to be the same. He's playing with Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, and Jalen Brunson. It's not going to work that way. I don't agree with that. I think because he's the more consistent three-point shooter, especially from the corners, he's going to get the ball a lot more. I think because he's a combo guard like Jalen, they can play off each other a lot better than him and Grimes can do. And Quickley still gives you the defense that you need and gives you the shooting that Quentin Grimes can't give you consistently yet. Given the fact that his value going into the postseason was $100 million, and now his value is barely $80 million, tells you that if you do not perform in the postseason, your value is going to go down. And that's what happened to Immanuel Quickley. In an ideal world, I would love to see the Knicks sign Immanuel Quickley to a long-term extension, but one that makes sense in terms of dollars. Anything under $80 million for me for Immanuel Quickley makes sense. And then you start him, you play him, and then you flip him for a star or superstar down the road, because there's going to be a lot of teams that need a point guard like Immanuel Quickley. And if you start him and increase that value, you give yourself the best shot either this coming season by the trade deadline or even next season or a few seasons after that to trade Immanuel Quickley for a piece that you can use to build with and potentially contend with in the East. If you like this video, go ahead and leave a comment below, smash that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knicks fans. Peace.